Hello and welcome to the SRC podcast. Joining me, Big M, is Mr. Rob Rees and John Harris. Good evening, gentlemen. How are we both?
All good, sir? You?
Yeah, good. Thanks, Big M. How are you?
Good. I'm great. So before we dive in, anything notable happened to either of you two this week? John, and anything nice to report on?
I had a nice night away on Sunday in Cardiff, me and the missus. Went to a nice steak restaurant. Stayed over in the Radisson. I was still paying for it yesterday. But yeah, nice little night away. Went to see the Aberafon-Cambridge game on the Saturday. But I was driving, so only 2 pints. No, sorry, no pints. Just watched.
Well, it's good to hear you had a good week. What about you, Rob? Yeah. Anything notable for you?
Not a lot, to be honest, gents. It's been one of those ones. It tailing off towards the middle of this week after the launch last week, and a bit of a quiet weekend. I think we've seen the last of the summer now, typically just as the rugby's about to kick off.
Oh yeah. Well, unfortunately, if anyone has listened to any of the podcasts I've been on, I've got way too many kids, and my youngest one turned 4 this past Saturday. We had a party on a Sunday. Oh. So I spent most of Sunday absolutely getting beaten up and just things thrown at me. Why are they throwing things? They're 3 and 4. It hurts. Nah, it was a great day. And
the daughter's going through that phase.
Mm-hmm. Oh, they don't come up to it. Just so you know.
She's in it now. Just everything's just chucked. Usually at someone's head.
Well, she's got to get practice, when she's throwing the remote at the other half in years to come.
Oh, yeah. Oh, she's going to be a hooker. Rugby term.
This is why I love fan podcasts.
Yeah.
Okay, so we done our West preview last week. This week we're doing our East preview, so just the 4 lonely teams on the right-hand side of the country. So Cardiff sound good to you guys?
Yeah.
Remember this?
Right, so decent season last year. Top 4, I'm imagining they were probably peeved off, but, runners up the previous year, probably wanted the final again. But Dan Fish in charge. Josh Turnbull obviously taking over line out and the contact area. Craig Everett, I believe he switched to defence. I'm looking at you for that, Rob. And then we got Nick Fish, who's also involved in there. So, fairly settled coaching team. I don't know. What are we thinking? Do you think this is the sort of setup the Rags need?
Yeah, I think this is going to be the first and the start of where they need to go. Typically, they've been a bigger money outfit the last couple of years. Griff Rees, I spoke to them at the launch last week, said about the budget pressure they was under, looking to get into this sort of league and where they are and how that's affected their sort of recruitment. So I think what we're seeing here is a change from Cardiff being this bigger spending club. Always had a decent allocation of the academy, but a sort of switching in and out as when sort of Cardiff Blues as they were, and Cardiff Rugby, depending on when it was, need the players sort of thing. But I think this year, they're about 10 academy allocations in a pretty threadbare squad, I'll be honest. For the Premiership side, you remove those allocations, and then all of a sudden you are on bare minimum, and that's something that Griff mentioned last week. And he was, even though they are the only side in their region, in the SRC, this is still going to be a big challenge from this year. They made some decent signings, but I think it's going to be really interesting to see how they retain these academy players, in the sense of how many start performing well and get called up as the season sort of progresses at a professional level.
Yeah, so you can see the squad has had quite a big overhaul. 10 academy players, like you just said, is massive in any squad. And, I think I saw just one of the news postings saying they've signed 8 new players. So we're talking nigh on 20 players, if not more, that have, come into the squad. So this is essentially almost a brand new squad. So, of the new signings, I think maybe the biggest name, Josh Thomas. He's done a fair bit already for a young man, and coming into that outside half shirt, with there's only Harry Wilde there. I mean, it's Cardiff, so Cardiff will always try and put something on, but it's a lot on his shoulders at quite a young age.
Yeah, I think that's what we need to look at. Is I think the forwards look quite solid. I like the signings of Mark Thomas and Tom Harper up front. I think that their front row is looking actually quite tasty. I'll be honest. Cameron Taylor-Grockett was actually really good when he started featuring for the Rags sort of towards the tail end of last year. But as you say, that back line is a lot more threadbare, especially behind one or two major names. I mean, Derry Cross knows how to find the whitewash. Cody Stone and Matty Young looked impressive last year and with the under-20s. But there's not a lot of depth there. I mean, 2 scrum halves, 2 outside halves. You're starting to push into this, you need 2 of those sort of players on the sort of the bench, in your match day squad every week. Well, one of those gets injured or work commitments and you're struggling. You're looking at permits then from the likes of St. Peter's as they did towards the tail end of last year. And I know their prep hasn't been the greatest either at the start of this year. I mean, some tough games. Cambridge was a narrow win down at Cap. I mean, I think judging off the performances we've seen of Cambridge elsewhere, that's probably not a bad result.
Yeah.
But it's probably not as comfortable as Cardiff would have liked, but moved a lot of players around. One to start and 2 in the game. But then the Ponty result as well. I mean, Ponty, I'm not overly impressed with Ponty's squad, and yet they trounced Cardiff really. And it was apparently
that was a surprise, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was an entertaining game apparently. But it is a bit of a shock result to see 40 points put on them by a Ponty side who've lost a lot of players. I mean, they retained a core dozen, I think, but other than that, they're relying on a lot of local talent. Obviously, the local talent's going good, so I'm interested to see where Cardiff sort of come up above the water this year because they was a bit slow to start last time out, and with the league finishing in December this time round, I don't think you can afford that 3 or 4 game slow start because you haven't got the sort of the calendar time to get it sort of right.
Yeah. So the one back 3 academy player you didn't name in there is Tom Bowen, and for anyone who doesn't know, he comes from good rugby. So Gareth Bowen is his father, the former fly half, and I like watching my age grade rugby, especially if I can get a hold of it. So Wales under-18s in the Six Nations Festival, I think it was April just gone, and Tom Bowen was a rock star. Honest to God, he showed absolutely everything you could have possibly wanted in a winger. So I think he could be one, alongside Cody Stone. I think Stone's a brilliant player as well. They could really form an incredibly young but potent back 3. Other solid players are there. You got the likes of Benji Williams, he's bounced around a little bit, but he's been in the academy set of himself. So they've got players there that can perform. It's just, as you said, it's a little bit threadbare. A couple injuries, and they are really knocking on the door. Now, we don't know what the setup is with the Blues, with Cardiff Rugby, I should say, sorry. Will they give more players because of basically how lacking they are in their own core squad? So,
surely Dan Fish will come out of retirement at some point.
Well, to be fair...
What's he on now, 4th, 5th? But yeah, he did it last year when Robin played them down Cardiff, and he just ran the show. In fairness, he looked a level above. So maybe, hopefully, these young players can impart a lot of wisdom on those boys because he's a quality player.
Yeah, well, there's no doubt about Dan, but the back 3 does seem to be one place that they have actually got a tiny bit of depth if you're going to pick any spot out in the entire squad. So I'm in an R where I want to put Cardiff, and I'm still torn. So I'm gonna see your guys' opinions before I finally decide. So, John, we haven't got to hear too much from you yet, but let's take your pick.
Well, originally I had Cardiff down as third. But yeah, I didn't actually realise how threadbare the team was looking. But like I say, there are some good signs coming in. Like Mark Thomas is a player that I've heard of, so he must catch the eye when he plays, because I'm not up on my other Premiership players, which I can't admit. But yeah, I've known Mark Thomas, and yeah, Derry Cross, who say quality, but you've got to think that quality is going to take them through. I would have thought, and with the coaching setup they've got as well. So I still think I'd like to put them third for the final table, I think.
Third, okay, that's a good shout. Rob, you've got nice spots open for Cardiff. You can put them anywhere and be happy.
Yeah, I think this is where my predictions for this year start mirroring last season. I'll be honest. I'm putting Cardiff in fourth, and we'll touch on it in a little bit. But I was originally going to put them one position below and put Pontypool in that sort of top four. But I'm interested seeing a couple of areas of Pontypool's sort of squad that I'm not quite sure on. I think John sort of hit the nail on the head with this. Is we sort of, if this was a different team that you was unsure on getting results, you probably would put them, in my case, fifth. You put them down the table because of the sort of the position around their squad. But this is a Cardiff side that do know how to win. They put some really good streaks together last year. The Llandovery semi-final was a good one. You know, they put some really nice momentum together to push Pooler out to that top four and just sort of hold it. So yeah, I'm going to say 4.
Okay. Mine's 4. I was torn between 3 and 4, and you guys have convinced me to go 4. So thank you for that. And that is our Cardiff Rugby region covered for the SRC. So we'll move on to our final region, which is the Dragons. And I'm going to start out with Pontypool this time. So straight into their coach. Instead of Leighton Jones once again taking the reins as the head, we've got Tom Hancock, who's come in as backs coach. Ashley Sweet, Scott Matthews, Kelvin Williams, all involved in the coaching, and both Scott Matthews and Kelvin Williams still playing. So I've never had an issue with player coaches, especially, you grow up playing. That's what you get at 90% of clubs in, Division 1 and below. So I've never had an issue with that. But looking at this SRC, can you really garner that sort of respect, that sort of, getting the boys to listen to you when you're still one of them? I think that might be an issue for this season for them. Going forward, though, there will be a very settled coaching setup, and it will improve them over time.
Yeah. I think that the coaching one is an interesting one. As you say, to have the sort of 3 players, if we include Sweetie as one from last season, coming in, is always an interesting dynamic, especially with Scott Matthews and sort of Morgan Allen coming in now. Where we sort of look to see that. Obviously, Scott's retained his number 8 jersey now for the game tomorrow night. And Morgan Allen's starting at 4, which we'll come on to later. Tom Hancock's going to be an interesting one. Coming from a good side, Llandovery, good movement with the backs. I think depending on what their 9 and 10 partnership could be crucial to the way Pontypool finish this season. And I say that because I think they are threadbare at fly half. And it's interesting to see. I mean, Kieran Meek gets his 100th cap for him now this week, but no Harry Ford in the squad at all. And I know that was something that was being majorly looked at, was when Kieran Meek made a decision quite late on, actually, to move from Ebbw Vale. It was on the premise that he would be getting starting game time, and a lot of it. So it was interesting to see Harry Ford come down. He's in the Dragon setup now and sort of getting involved there. And it was looking like he was going to be taking the reins. So I'm interested to see where this goes with Pontypool. I think last year they struggled to sort of close out some big games, and that's what ultimately cost them was was not being able to compete maybe against the size they needed to sort of overtake. But if Tom can get those backline players firing, there's plenty of talent there. I mean, if they get a bit of Morgan Lloyd this year, I know he's going to be allocated back to them. Probably not as much as he was last year, but interestingly, he was the young player representative at the launch last week. So quite clearly, he's still going to be sticking around for a significant amount of time. But then also, again, it comes down to, is it going to be Kieran Meek having a lot of game time? Is it going to be Harry Ford coming in? Are they going to be interchangeable? I think Morgan Lloyd last year was by far their best player. He was the difference maker that won them several games and kept them in some big games. So I think if that 9 and 10 sort of duo doesn't go right this year, or if they can get it clicking right, I think that's their key to success in moving into let's call it moving into the playoffs, moving into that top 4, moving into the sort of let's close the gap on sort of top 3, which I think is the aim. I know Llandovery and Newport were a sort of couple of games ahead of Ebervale. They were a couple of games ahead of Cardiff, but that's where Pontypool need to sort of start looking at.
Yeah, 100%. And, you look at this squad on paper, and compared to a lot of others, it is a very settled side. I mean,
got some depth too, isn't it?
100%, yeah. You can
especially
see
up back three, back row. And I know their scrum was very good last year.
Yeah. So, I mean, halfback is the issue, like you've just said. I mean, they've brought in quite a few new players in those positions. You've got Dylan Davis and Archie Lloyd, both scrum halves. Kieran Meek and now Joseph Scrivens, who's make a Ponty to Ponty switch, which it must be nice for some players to do that. I play for Ponty. Oh, I've transferred. Where have we gone? Ponty. Yeah. I mean, I do like the look of their forwards, as you just alluded to, John. I mean, if we look at their academy players, and Dylan Kelleher-Griffiths and Sam Scarfer can be two players that could dominate this league this year. I mean, we've seen Sam Scarfer, and I wouldn't be surprised to see him more involved with the Dragons, considering the status at hooker at the minute. So there's good players in there. It is that it's the game management at halfback that is going to be the one. So, John, you get to view. How many times have you seen Pontypool in the last year or so? What can you tell us?
I did manage to get up to Pooler Park last year. First time I'd ever been up there. So when they finally got promoted, I was like, right, well, that's one of the away games I'm going to make sure I get to, because I've never been there. And they've got ambition up there, definitely. You could see that. They had a good crowd up there. The fans are buying into what they're trying to do, I think. They definitely want to be pushing towards the top of that table. And when we went up there, they had first thing, they had an excellent scrum, because Aberafon known last season as having 2 amazing scrums, so we could bring 2 sets of front rowers on and interchange them. But we went up there and they give us a real hard time up front, even when we made our substitutions and brought the likes of Rowan and Geraint on. But they were lacking behind the scrum, I think. And as Rob said, if they can get that back line going with the front football of the forward pack can give them, then they'll be turning some big sides over, I think.
So we've got a general consensus. They'll have a good pack. We're undecided on the back line. So if we have a little look at their fixtures, so where did they go in pre-season? They went over the border for all of their games. 4 games, but on 3 dates. Just need to make that clear. So they played Dings Crusaders and Old Redcliffeans, 2 40-minute games on the same day. A 14-10 win over Dings, 28-7 over Old Redcliffeans. So, pretty solid there. But they are, the lower side. So then they come against Birmingham Moseley, who are obviously a much higher side, and Cinderford. And they took a bit of a thumping against Birmingham, but Cinderford was a 1-score game, 19-12. So I'd be very encouraged by this pre-season. Just looking at that looking at the squad, look at the coaches, and just looking at the games as as mutually exclusive to each other, I'd still be very positive without even looking at it as a whole. What about you, Rob?
Yeah, I think the interesting pattern there. I know pre-season tends to be all about tries, but as they haven't gone off those scores, they haven't actually gone for the posts at all. They've got 2 tries against Dings, 4 against Redcliffeans, 3 against Birmingham Moseley, and 2 against Cinderford. So I think that's going to be the key, and I think their set pieces is going to be based around a lot of that. And I'm interested on the points kicking for a couple of reasons. Last year, Matty Jarvis was an absolute tank. I believe he had the highest percentage accuracy of anybody kicking. And I'm no disrespect to Pontypool, but Pontypool Park isn't the greatest of surfaces. So for him to be doing that off that as his home ground and across the sort of the other grounds as well, it is no mean feat. But it was this, over 200 points he ended the season with off the tee. That's hard to replace, and that's where Kieran's probably going to come in now at fly half. He sort of rotated with Evan Lloyd a bit towards the end of the season for Ebervale, kicked a bit, so he's got his eye in, but he hasn't had a huge amount of consistent game time and kicking. So I think that's going to be the sort of the crucial area for Pontypool. If they're looking at getting that set piece, the driving maul is going to be their biggest weapon this year, especially if Morgan Allen's going up to the boiler house. Then that's where what we'll see a lot of is they're going to be kicking for the corner. If they haven't got a 55-meter kicker in, Mickey's got the distance, but a couple of % off what Jarvis was kicking, and like I said, it makes a significant difference to the end of season.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. An extra 5% on your kicker, and that's not just points on the board. That's points on the league table. So that is something that's going to be hard to replace. Obviously, first and foremost, and interesting to see how much of the game plan that actually changes. But we'll have to wait and see if your foresight, which I think has been pretty spot on so far, is any good. So I'm going to come back to you, John. But first, I've got Pontypool finishing in 5th. I'm going to put my stall out early. So where do you see the mighty Pontypool finishing this season?
Well, as you said before we come on, I've kind of backed myself into where I've got to put them now on my list. But so I've almost talked myself out of it now, though, after kind of reading everything. But I've got to stick with it. But I'll put a caveat on it. It could be higher, but I've got them down as 7th. But I know. I kind of know I've actually spoke about them. I'm doubting it, but I've got to stick with it because that's what I've decided. So 7th, but wouldn't be surprised if they can crack that top 5.
Oh, brilliant! So for anyone who's listening, who listened last week, we doing this for fun. But Rob in the group chat, he's getting a bit scatty. He's a bit worried about what he's doing. So I think it'd be a good idea if anyone is listening to this, if you can think of a good forfeit to whoever has the worst league table at the end of the year, I think that'd be nice. A bit of engagement goes a long way to it. So over to you, Rob. Where a Pontypool finishing in your table?
There's a similar pattern between myself and you tonight. Then I'm putting them in 5th.
Ooh.
Exactly the same as they were last year. I think, unfortunately, I think they've got the experience and they brought some decent players in. And whilst they have got some good numbers there, I don't know if they've quite got the depth in some key areas or quite got the squad to just push that top 4. But of course, it goes to knockout rugby at the end of the season, and that's what Pontypool will be looking for. Although last year, John, I believe it was Aberafon that knocked them out the cup quite early on.
I'd have to check my records, but I'm sure you're probably right. But I think so, yeah.
So there we go. That's Pontypool summed up in a nice and positive way by 2 of us, and we were talking about John. So that takes us over. That takes us over to Ebbw Vale. Now, I'll be honest. I do a lot of the run around, looking at squads, looking at everything. But fair play, Mr. Rob Rees. You've saved my bacon. You've done a good deep dive on Ebbw Vale for us, so thank you very much for this. So their coaches going into the season, Jason Strange heading it up. Steve Lang in the backs, Aaron Coundley in the forwards, and I am not going to try and pronounce that name. I am really sorry. Rob, do you want to tell us who the strength and conditioning coach is?
He's
David Robozniak.
It is Poland international.
There we go. I was really scared then. I looked at it and I was like, I'm going to mess that up. Like, no. So, on paper, that's pretty solid. I really like Coundley as a player. I thought he could have done a hell of a lot more than what resulted in. But yeah, Ebervale did a strong team with a seemingly strong coaching setup. So I think all their fans can be very, very happy with what they've got at the minute. Any other opinions on these then, Rob?
I think the coaching setup is really settled. There was no changes to let's call it the tactical side of the coaching staff. All the changes came in the medical, so SRC and 2 new physios in as well. So that was quite interesting, but not through choice. I spoke to Jason at the launch, and unfortunately, Nicky's got some other commitments and lives a few hours away, so stuff like that had to move on. But interestingly, sort of the different insight is, I spoke to John Evans and a couple of weeks back now when I seen him out and about, and he mentioned about just how everything that David is doing now with the SNC, because he's doing that. That's his background. He's not just a guy who loves going to the gym and put sort of plans together. He knows the science behind it. It's all science and data driven all of a sudden, which is going to be an interesting one, because I know Chippy's always been one to sort of beast the boys. They were doing fitness testing last Thursday night, so I think it's a settled coaching staff really, and I think the medical side of it is the side that you typically turn over. The injuries weren't too bad, I don't think, last year. Yeah, the squad is reasonably settled for a side that's made 11 signings, or let's say 10 signings, because Cam Davis has transferred from Dragons Academy allocation to a permanent Ebervale player. He's going to be a cracking young talent there. Adam Williams has come back as well. Again, lives and works up near Abergavenny, so it made sense for him to move up from Cardiff. So I think there's some interesting change. I think Hooker's going to be the interesting one. Last year, the lineup was hit and miss for large parts of the season. Difficult one for the coaching staff. They had Joe Franchi and Reece Francis, both as captains, both as hookers. Reece called it a day at the end of last season. He's focusing on the job at the school. And now you've got Joe Franchi still around, still the club captain. Ian Morris came in last season. He's got loads of Premiership experience with Ponty and Merthyr, and he's probably been their best hooker actually in pre-season so far. So I'm interested to see if the rotation of just 2 hookers benefits rather than 3.
Yeah, I mean, I want to come back onto John Evans. This man is an elite level player. He won the Pro 12 with the Scarlets, and he was in that match day squad for the final. That is the level of player we've got. He will play. He has played top end of Europe Champions Cup rugby. So they've got might not be captain, but they've got an excellent leader in that squad there, and he is someone who will drive standards. I mean, this is sort of where we start to see the balance of analysis and rugby, where it starts to come more away from the analysis side in the pro game. So it's always interesting to see what coaches believe at this level. So to see more analysis, it does open it up a little bit. I mean, not a great amount of investment from the Dragons with their academy boys. Owen Conker, I mean, what a player. There's no reason why he can't be, in a Dragons 23 already. That watching this boy play for the under-20s and throughout last season, he is a massive talent and could go very far, But the same can be said for a lot of people. You can't put all your eggs in one basket. So, yeah, I mean, who else can I pick out? I want to pick out someone nice. So Jack Pope Jack Pope's a good signing, fair play. He's in our boiler house. He will hold them solid. So for the fan-based view, John, what's Ebbw like to play against?
Good, solid team. That's what I think of. I think of Ebbw Vale. I think they dipped off a couple of seasons ago, but come back last season and very strong. Like, maybe not so much straight to your head going to be all challenging the top 1 and 2, but they were comfortably a top 4 side last year. So that's why when they came down to us, it was one of our biggest wins of the season was turning them over it was one of our biggest wins because they were playing so good before coming down to us. So I think maybe not spectacular, but everything they do is good. Maybe like 7 out of 5. They're good at everything. Yeah. Maybe without being outstanding. So they're going to be in every game they play, which is going to be by the end of the season. That's going to be points on the board.
Good to hear. Well, they're actually live in play. So Rob, I'm coming to you first. Where are Ebbw Vale, the Steelmen? Where are they going to finish?
I think they're going to follow up from last season. I think that they've held some good core squad together, made some smart investment. Matty Jones at fullback from the Bristol Bears Academy is going to be one to watch as well. So I'm going to say they're going to finish in 3rd. I don't think they're going to be they're not quite in the right space to close that gap on Newport and Llandovery. And I think I've just given away my final prediction there as well. But as John said, they probably are quite a well-rounded side. It's not going to, scream people's names. They'll say, they're going to be silverware contenders. But yeah, I think 3rd's probably about where they are at the moment for me.
Yeah, well, best of the rest. I'm exactly the same. I've got them in 3rd. But it's not about the league anymore, especially with this 10-team playoff system at the end. So any one result can do it.
Interestingly, when I was speaking to John, we were saying about the 2 semi-finals last year, and they shipped over 90 points in the sort of the 2 games. Really disappointing for the club and the supporters. And they said what they've sort of spoken about a lot since then, and straight after the season, was let's add another game plan. They said they were okay playing a team where the conditions were perfect for what they wanted, but they didn't have that plan B if it sort of changed. So I'm interested to see if that's going to be the difference, because knockout rugby, I mean, typically that's what Ebbw Vale was sort of like. But that sort of close-knit game, there's a lot on it. The detail from the likes of Jason Strange, a big traveling support or big home crowd. So yeah, I think it's gonna be interesting to see who's where these teams are finishing in the sort of the playoffs. Because ultimately, if you finish in 3rd, you'll be taking on the side who finishes 8th in the table. So that could be an interesting tie, because if you start falling that sort of 4th and 5th, those sides are all of a sudden, as we've all been saying with the predictions, are going to be really close, and you're going to have knockout rugby. I wouldn't want to be calling the winner from those.
Yeah, just who turns up on the day then, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%.
So, John, you're the last man. Where are Ebbw Vale finishing?
I've got Ebbw Vale finishing 4th.
4th, yeah. I think all of us are going to be in agreement with the next team finish. So that rounds us up for the Steelmen. Another strong season expected of them. So for our final team to preview before we can get on to some actual games, and just for everyone who is listening, we are less than 24 hours from the kickoff at the time of recording. So let's move over to Newport.
Can't wait.
No. Unlucky finalists, and I have to say that as much as I love the Drovers and I want the Drovers to be successful, a 1-score final, it was probably perfect for the league, and it was a perfect advert for how strong this league is. So if we look at some of the coaches they've got involved, Tyrone Morris, obviously, he's been here for a good few seasons now, so a good, strong, settled head coach. I think Gareth Wyatt, another name anyone involved in rugby is going to know, and Kerry Jones, who's very involved with the Dragons. So there's also James Dixon involved in with defence as well. So there's a lot of good, strong coaches in there, and it seems a very settled setup with a lot of access to resources. I'm going to say, having a regional coach in there is going to help on that side massively. What do we say, Rob? Where do these compare to the rest?
No, I think we got to say that them and Llandovery, same sort of area last season, and I think you can see very similar patterns in there. Sort of the squads, very sort of steady sort of recruitment and sort of retainment, I should say. They've had to sign quite a few players, and that is because their allocation has largely decreased. They're basing it off a 4-player allocation at the moment, or 5 off the list that we've got. I think Ollie Andrews going to be one of those seniors, but then Morgan Lloyd at Pontypool and Barney Lanton Cryer, he's going to be involved as well. Interesting. I mean, they've signed the likes of Nathan Evans, so he's going to be very familiar. And you've said it already, that having the Dragons coaches involved helps massively. Matt O'Brien runs and helps with the plays at the Dragons. He comes out to Newport on a Tuesday and a Thursday, and he's running exactly the same team calls. Yeah. Exactly the same. The last season, the back line, you look at the players who were, like your Di Richards, who's now with Newport full time, but obviously was Dragons at the time, and your Ollie Andrews coming in, your Shea Hopes, Matt O'Brien involved in the Dragons from a coaching perspective. The players knew what they were doing because they've been learning at the Dragons all week. And that helps absolutely massively. I mean, they have signed really well. And I think getting them into sort of the budget was quite difficult. I think Tyrone Morris was quite open that some players had to sort of stand up and sort of say, well, we got to be honest in a recruitment policy here and see what we're going to be accepting. But I mean, Joe Peard up front, massive fan of Joe ever since he was with the Dragons Academy, obviously first with Ebervale, then went out to Cardiff. Saracens were looking at him at one stage, and he went across the bridge with Hampton. He's never really settled. And I'm interested to see if this is sort of his chance now to sort of sit down and finally get into it. And I think my back to watch is Liam Lloyd. When he was permitted from Treorchy, I believe, before the end, not last season, the season before, Ebervale had him on permit, and he has absolute pace to burn. And when Pontypridd snapped him up, I was quite surprised that Ebervale hadn't done the business. And for Newport to turn around and get that job done, bringing in the likes of Di Richards as well, they've made some really smart signings. And I'm interested to see how the coaching staff go now. Like I said, Gareth coming in from Ponty, Kerry said coming down from RGC for a role with the Dragons. He's going to take Sam Hobbs' responsibilities, and that's no mean feat to try and follow up either. I think the Newport pack last year, I would probably say, was the best pack of the season. I think they drive in more. They seem to, Llandovery is that steady engine. Newport seem to have that sort of assertion about them. That I don't want to call it aggression because they're not a dirty team or anything like that, but that assertion when they're on the field, they look like they're that next level above a team sometimes. So I'm interested to see what they can do. And of course, 150th year.
Oh, 150th year is already kicked off. They've had a special dinner and everything.
Oh, yeah. Like big dinner at the Celtic Manor. Lovely.
Well, it's great to see. And, just were they one of the founding clubs? Am I right in saying that with the WIO? I think I've seen their name on it.
I would have thought so.
But yeah, so it's going to be a massive season for them regardless. And that's regardless of where they finish as well, just the significance of 150th year. But yeah, there's loads of players with Dragons connections. I mean, you could probably name a good third, if not half of the squad that have come through the academy at some point. I mean, you've got the likes of Max Williams and Reinhard Landman, who, Landman is, again, a massive leader. They've got their captain in Ben Roach. They've got senior players who will be able to hold their hands up and bring these younger boys through. Slightly smaller allocation, like you said, but one name which, if anyone watched the under-20s or have been watching Newport over the last probably season, is Jordan Morris. He's a converted back rower, loose head now. And, okay, like anyone who converts to the front row, it's going to take time to get the technical aspects. But that boy is an absolute beast. He is huge. He will carry. I mean, I would put, obviously, different size to someone like Reece Carey, but that's the sort of impact he has as a player. He is that big and powerful. That's what he is bringing to this Newport team. And
very dynamic.
Quite frankly, as soon as he gets a bit more experience, propping, scrummaging, I don't think Newport are going to see him for too long. Maybe 2 years max, if that.
I'm looking forward to seeing him. Sorry, Bob.
No, go on, John.
No, I was just saying, I'm looking forward to seeing him as well. He's one of the players I've heard of and been on my radar, and I've always loved seeing the props coming through as well, because that's one thing you can never have enough of in rugby is good props. So always looking forward to seeing good young props coming through.
Yeah, I'm hoping he gets the game time at Premiership. I say Premiership, but SRC level this year. He's allocated to Pontypool last year, but spent the majority of his season with Cardiff Met. And it's complete different style of sort of rugby, even if you look at sort of the backs. And I think you've seen the best of him at under-20s. So yeah, I'm hoping he gets a solid run-outs this year and get some good minutes in him. There's some good leaders there and some good forwards. Kerry Jones as well. The coaches have got vast experience for the front row. So yeah, I think he's going to be one that you see that comes in relatively, let's call him relatively unknown. He hasn't played huge Premiership minutes beforehand, and I think he's going to blossom.
Yeah, I mean, I think what you just said there is hit the nail on the head. There seems to be a lot of players now playing a season, if not more, of Bucks rugby, which is obviously the university level game. And I think that's somewhere where us as a country, we're going to see a sort of developmental switch, because I'm seeing a lot of academy boys, first-year academy boys, I should point out, who are opting to play for the university over a club. When you step into that senior men's game, playing in a sort of under 22, under 23 league is a lot easier and a lot less stress on the body, especially for someone in the front five. So yeah, Jordan Morris, that's a name. Him and Josh Morse at Llandavry. Those are probably the two highest rated loose heads in the country at the minute at under 21 age. So they were competing together at the under 20 World Cup. So it will be good to see both of them come through. And top two sides, top two loose heads, top two prospects, I should say. But yeah, I mean, brilliant squad. Like you just said, Liam Lloyd coming in from Torquay and Pontypridd. But you've got Lloyd Lewis as well. I mean, come on. He's like chocolate, man. You've got to love him. He just goes twice for fun.
He's one of those players. I think the only other player that we've sort of discussed sort of tonight, they're going to score tries, is Derby Cross. At the end of every season, that he's going to have 15 tries. And ultimately, he has that next level pace. There's a reason he was on the 7 circuit. In the derby up at Eugene Cross last season, there was the flat pass, and he was level with the defense, and he just you could just see him ease away. Just that 5 yards of extra pace, just too much for people.
Yeah, top end pace and a bit of X factor. It goes a massive way in any team. So I think we've all only got one place left in all our respective tables. So it's going to be a
roll, please.
I'm not doing a drum roll. I'm not going to. But I'll see if we can edit one in. I'm too lazy. We've all got Newport in second. So I think should we post our final tables? I think we should post Rob's, just Rob's. Yeah.
So yeah, pitchforks.
Oh, 100%, my boy. So that brings us to the end of our 10 previews. And like I've said not so long ago, we are less than 24 hours from our first game. So let's talk about that first game. Pontypool against Llandavry.
Llandavry team news, yes, whilst we were mid-pod.
Oh, we've got team news.
Oh, we've got it, have
we? We said they drop it mid-pod.
Yeah.
Going to read it out.
Yeah, go for it. Let's have a look at it.
So Jamie Hughes, Taylor Davis, another try machine there, Clear Green, Will Evans and Chris Long. Obviously, Jack Jones retired in the second row at the end of last season. Ocean Davis, Stuart Worrell, Jordan Evans in the back row. Lee Reese as captain, Johan Hughes at the fly halves. halfback, sorry, Aaron Warren and Elan Phillips on the wing, Rodri Jones and Adam Warren in the midfield, Jack Maynard at fullback.
That's
So
not bad, is it?
Yeah, it doesn't.
I mean, I'm gonna put a bit of perspective on this for Jamie Hughes. He played Leicester on Saturday for the Scarlets. Now, I think he only had about 20 minutes or so, but the learning you get from games like that when you play in the SRC Premiership, that level is going to be massive. And it's an incredibly similar squad to what we saw last season. I mean, I know there's no Barry and Watkins here, but Clear Green is a solid enough player. Will Evans is a boy you need to look out for. He is first year senior, Scarlets Academy boy, Wales under-18s international. He is a beast. He is. If you think of a second row when you look at him, you've got it, and he is that powerhouse. Lee Reese is captain. He's what more can you ask for? I mean, it is interesting. We spoke about the fly half debate. They have got Steph Jack Jones on the bench. Another player that I think actually turned out for Ammanford this past week was Morgan McClem. So, boys have actually, even though the Drovers haven't been playing, they're still getting games elsewhere. So these boys are going to be, very match fit. I know we talk about Pontypool having 4 games, over 3 weekends, but I think the last one was now 11 days ago. I think it was the last weekend of August. So preseason is massive for everyone, and balancing that out, it's always good. It's always good. So where do we see the key battles in this one? Come on in, John. Let's show your worth.
Well, first battle we've got to think of what these two is going to be up front. Two big packs, 2 strong scrums. Be a nice learning experience for the young props going up to Pontypool Park on a Thursday night, especially if it's wet. Must be a nice introduction. You'll learn more from that than playing Bucks, I think. I'm just looking forward to this one. We've all been looking forward to this new competition starting, see what it's all going to be about. It's hard to not see. I did check the squad from last season. I got it here from when they played each other last at Pontypool Park. My phone doesn't want to load now. Here we are.
He's done a deep dive.
I have. So we had 48-26 to Llandovery last time they met at Pontypool Park.
And on the telly as well.
What was it?
Yeah. That was, if I'm right, that was a game that Jack Davis got an injury in, which was very unfortunate for that young man, but he's back playing rugby, which is good for him.
I think it was an interesting game because I think Kean Abraham wrapped up with Patrick, in the first half. And I'm not sure if there was somebody for Pontypool, I'm sure, bagged the hat-trick as well over the game. And I think this could be quite similar. 2 sides. I think the forward battle is going to be intense. And as you say, Will Evans versus Morgan Allen at number 4. Someone at both ends of the scale of where their rugby career is. 2 quality players. I'm interested to see as well how the benches start performing. I think we've both seen these clubs have stronger benches.
Yeah.
But it doesn't get much stronger than that from a Llandovery perspective with the start in 15. I mean, for me, I think Pontypool Park is a decent fortress, and I don't think it'll be the same result, same scoreline, sorry, I should say, as last season. But for me, I'm seeing Llandovery just eking this one out. I mean,
yeah.
The Pontypool squad is quite an interesting one. We've already gone over Morgan Allen going into second.
Quality player.
So Scott Matthews can start at 8. No Harry Ford at all, and Tojo returns, but he's gone to fullback instead of his preferred wing spots. And of course, as you said, Joe Scrivens coming in on the bench again, real quality player. I think Penalta products. Was it Penalta? He went from to Pontypridd, and he struggled for game time in the end, but really good quality player, controls the game so well.
Yeah, I mean, both sides they are stacked, and there's no other words to say. One of my favourite players, being a Scarlet, is on the Llandovery bench. Is Harry Thomas, a young hooker. He actually captained the Scarlets 2 weeks ago. So he's a great talent that I love watching play. Yeah, I can't see outside of a Llandovery win whether that new 15-point bonus point is going to come into play. I think as a first game of the season, it might be a stretch too far. But, I think this is going to be a fairly comfortable Llandovery win, probably. If not 2 scores, then just the 1 score. So, John?
I'm thinking I'm going Llandovery by 12, I'm going to say. Yeah.
Ooh, so that leaves the man who likes to back himself into corners. Where do we go in with this one, Rob?
Yeah, I was not too far off John, to be honest. I was looking at 10, 12-point margin, that sort of 2 tries sort of area. I think Llandovery going to have a bit too much. I think Pontypool might take a couple of weeks to settle in now with the new coaching structure and a few key areas being quite fresh too.
Okay, so we're all back in Llandovery to win this by a 2-score margin. Let's say 8-14 probably is that's how it. So that's our Thursday night game, which is live on S4 Click online. So 7:30 kickoff. It's going to be a massive game. That's going to be a firecracker. You cannot miss that game if you like your rugby, especially in Wales. Come along, watch with us. That's going to be an epic start to the season. So the next game I've got up on my list, which is obviously onto the Saturday 2:30 kickoffs now, is your Aberavon travelling to Ebbw Vale, John. What are we thinking, my friend?
I'm thinking I'm going to have to watch this one sober because I'm going to have to drive up for this one. So another ground I haven't been to before, Eugene Cross Park. Or I think it's called something else now for naming reasons, but we call it Eugene Cross. So I'm really excited for this one. I'm excited every time the season starts, but you can't get that's a good test now to see where my team Aberavon are going to be to start this season away to Ebbw Vale. There's only 3 other teams where that's going to be you're getting that level on the first game. So I'm going to say if we can get a losing bonus point out of that, I'll come away happy. Well, not happy, but to take that into the home game then the week after. But
where's the blind faith? Where's the one-eyedness? Come on, my friend.
I know, but we've got to be diplomatic, haven't I?
No, this is Aberavon you're talking about. This is 51% of your heart. Come on, back. So okay.
That's the official choice, but obviously I'm going up there thinking we're going to get a bonus point win. So
that's much better. I'm liking that thinking. That's what we want to hear more of. So Rob, where's this one going? But
I'm thinking 7 to 9 points probably in favour of Ebbw Vale. I think the Aberavon games have typically been quite close either way the last couple of years. I think there's only a few seasons ago that they kicked the season off against each other up at Eugene Cross, and I think that was 1-score game. Ebbw Vale second half sort of comeback. So Jason Knight seemed he was up for the challenge. I think Andrew Waite can get his 100th cap if he's named in the squad and gets on the field. So yeah, I think Ebbw will be a bit too strong for Aberavon at the moment, but I think we're in for again another entertaining game and another game that we're probably going to see set piece be the bread and butter of that fixture.
Yeah. Okay. So you both very surprisingly to me, and it has hurt me a bit, John. I'm not gonna lie. Both gone for Ebbw Vale. So I'm gonna switch things up a little bit, and I'm gonna say no. I do believe in Aberavon. This is probably 3-6, 3-8. This best of the rest battle. I think everyone can take points off everyone. That's 1 through 10 anyway, but especially these areas. So I'm going to back Aberavon for the win by year. So that takes us on to Newport against Bridgend. And for me, this is a massive game for Bridgend. This is a massive game for Scott Baldwin. He has brought a lot of belief, a lot of a different way of thinking into Bridgend, and this is gonna be it's not make or break, but it's going to tell us how much these players really believe in him and how much they've taken everything he said about. Because when I've spoken to him, it was a case of, he's like, yeah, there's professional where you're professional all the time. There's semi-professional. You're not half professional. You're not half professional half time. It's when you are here, you're a professional setup. That's his belief. So he does everything at 100% when they are there. And if the boys have bought into that, which I'm thinking they will, it could be a massive game. I can't see outside of Newport, unfortunately, but I do think it's going to be a lot closer than many people might think. So I'd probably say Newport by 10 would probably going to be the margin for this one. I mean, we're not counting margins. I'm just taking, wins, losses. So we don't have to be too specific if you don't want to. But yeah, I'm back in Newport for this one, but Regenda are going to put up one hell of a fight.
Yeah, I think there's probably going to be a bit of a chip on Bridgend's shoulder, because I'm sure this was the fixture down at Spitty towards the end of last season when Newport won something like 96-12 on that absolute mayhem of an afternoon. I still think we're looking at 18 to 20 point margin, a victory for Newport, but I think Bridgend they want to come out and set the marker, and this will be the sort of the game. What points can you take out of these tough games? That's where you start climbing the table.
Yeah. John, this leads over to you. Where is the winner coming from between Newport and Bridgend?
Yeah, as you both say, it's hard to look past Newport winning this one, especially at home. But listening to your chat with Scott Baldwin as well earlier today, I was liking what he's got to say. Well, you said, how are they going to do this season? He said, well, I want to win the league.
Yeah.
He didn't blink. He didn't hesitate. So I feel that belief's got to bleed in, especially from someone as high profile as Scott Baldwin. I think you say you've got Bradley Davis behind the scenes. These are quality, ex-internationals. So just being amongst that is going to lift you up, surely. But like Rob said, I think it might take a few games, I think, for Bridgend to really find their stride and what they want to do. So I'm going to say, I'm thinking of Newport by about 15 as well.
Yeah, so we're all back in Newport now. And now here comes an interesting game, because we've all placed these teams slightly differently. We got Carmarthen Quins at home to Swansea. Now, if you didn't already know, I'm a Scarlets boy, so I'm always going to back Carmarthen Quins. Even if they're away to Newport, I'm probably going to back them just for the sake of it. But yeah, I've got a lot of belief in this Quins side, especially if they can get the back line out that they want. This is the marker. This is the area where Carmarthen Quins are, and Swansea are both going to want to be fighting to be top of each other. I think they finished one place apart last season as well. So these are the games that they know they need to win if they want to push on. So I am back in the Quins for this one. John, where's your mind at?
I think this is going to be quite close, but I tend to agree with you. I think Carmarthen at home as well. Swansea historically don't travel well, and I think they might struggle with the forward pack of Carmarthen as well, scrum time, set piece. So yeah, but I think it's going to be, I got it down as one score maybe. I'll go Carmarthen by 10, I'll say as well. Well, I've done 10. I'll go Carmarthen by 9. I did 10 on another game. It's got to be different.
Oh, okay. Yeah, but 10 to 9. Oh, you're going 3s and 4s, man. That's I say 3s and 4s, 3s and 7s. Okay, so Rob, that lends over to you. Is this going to be a clean sweep for Carmarthen, or do you believe that the Whites could fight back and do it?
Yeah, I think I'll go Carmarthen. I think that's probably going to be based on if they can put out the squad that we've sort of discussed in the West preview. I think Quins need to start making the park a bit more of a fortress. If in these sort of fixtures, your Swanseas, your Bridgends, your RGCs, you've got to be winning those games at home. And I think this could be a good start, depending on how sort of Swansea starts, because we sort of said it last week, is they promise and then never deliver, and they have to this year. But I think let's go Quins by 3 or 4 points. I think this is going to be, for me, the toughest game to call of round one. And yeah, I can see Quins doing the job at home, providing that everything's okay with the camp.
Okay, so that takes us on to our final game of the round, which is RGC welcoming the Rags, a Cardiff side up to North Wales. And this is always the tricky one with RGC, is when you go up north, that travelling, it can hit you in ways that you don't expect. And let's not forget that RGC did the job on Cardiff last year at home. So I know I've placed RGC bottom. I've placed Cardiff in my top 4. But I think that travelling it might just be too much. Look at, where we spoke about this Cardiff side with how, quite bare it is, how young quite a lot of them are. I think going up to RGC this early in the season is going to be a step too far for them. I'm going to back RGC. It's a single score game. It could be, it'll be a single score going into the 79th minute. We probably won't even know who's going to win the game at that point either. But yeah, I'm back in RGC. John, where are you going for this one?
Big shout, big game. I still think I'm going to have to go for Cardiff on this one. I just think they're going to have a little bit too much quality for RGC. So I think Cardiff by 11.
Ooh, that's a nice, tasty one. Rob, this leaves you to finish us off. How different are we all going to be?
So, like you, I am going for a 1-score game. But like John, I'm saying that's going to be in favour of Cardiff. I know they're going up the night before. They're going to have a bit of a team bonding sort of weekend out of it. But yeah, I think there's some decent quality, and I've sort of gone against everything I've sort of said so far, with Cardiff starting slowly and all the travel at RGC. But yeah, I'm just not a fan of RGC squad. I think RGC are going to be another side that take a little while. They got some decent fixtures to get him going. They got the new pitch up there, so yeah, I'm going to say Cardiff by 1 score. But I think, as you say, this is one of those games that could literally go either way, and you would know.
So that rounds up everything we have to talk about. And don't forget, if you are interested in the SRC, we have got the live games on Thursday, but we have also got a new highlight show coming on a Tuesday night, which I think is going to be an online thing as well. Rob, I know you've got a bit more. Yeah, he's nodding for me. That's brilliant for our audio only fans. But thank you, lads, for joining me. The season is going to be in full flow next week. We'll have games to review, games to preview, and we're going to be pushing Welsh rugby as high as we can. Thank you very much, and I'll see you all again next week.
Good. Bye, guys. Cheers, Big for getting so many of these interviews in all week as well. You've just been churning out. It's been brilliant. So good work, mister.
But there is a bit of a secret to this. I done them a few weeks ago. I didn't do them last night.
I could tell that when you're wishing them luck with games that they haven't played. Or that they've already played.
Oh, you've knocked me down. Okay, that's it. That's it. We've gone on too long. Right. Bye, everyone. We'll see you next week.
Ciao, guys.